All right, hello. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and it's kind of interesting. I've done 120 some videos to prepare for the AWD1000 class, but I didn't really do any kind of what you might call an opening or an introductory video. So I decided to do that last. And the AWD1000 Web Development Technologies class is the first course that you take as part of the Rankin Technical College Application Web Development, or AWD, program. Now, I don't want to sit and read to you, but let's just cover the highlights. And that is, probably the biggest highlight is what you see here in gray. And that is, this class, more than anything else, talks about what's referred to as front-end website development. Front-end means it's basically what the user sees, as opposed to back-end, which is the kind of part that's more or less invisible to the user. So we learn in this class HTML, HTML5, CSS, CSS3, and JavaScript. HTML is an acronym that stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's not exactly a programming language, as its name implies. It's a markup language. So it's a language that you use to create content that goes onto a website. The newest version of HTML is referred to as HTML5, and that's the one that we concentrate on the most in this class. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. So if you look at HTML as being how you create website content, then CSS, or Cascading Style Sheets, is how you style that content. For instance, if you notice in right here, okay, this is not CSS, but you notice that where it says Rankin Technical College Application Web Development AWD Program, that's bolded and it's bigger than the text that's in here. You could do that on a website with CSS. This part right here is bolded, that kind of thing. If I wanted to take that sentence that you see in gray and literally make it in gray, anytime a person brought up, let's say this was part of a website, I'd use CSS for that. And finally, JavaScript is what's used to create interactive web pages. Hopefully you've gone out to a website at some time in your life where they maybe have asked you questions or whatever, and based on the answers that you give, they're able to customize the content of the website. So, as it says, we'll cover current content management systems. So we'll talk about things like what's referred to as Bootstrap. All right, I don't even want to get into what that means right now. It's just a front-end website development management system that we'll talk about later. We get into talking about accessibility concepts. The idea in life is that anyone who wants to use your website should be able to use your website. Sounds simple enough, but you can do a lot of things to help people who have any kind of a physical impairment, let's say, that they're blind or they're deaf or whatever, or someone who can't use a mouse for whatever reason. We talk about things like that. We get into web ethics, what you should do and why you should do it, what makes sense to do, what's the right thing to do. We talk in here about e-commerce, which is the ability to buy and sell goods and services online. We hit on the concept of website search engine optimization, also referred to as SEO. And that is, if I'm going to create a business that's like an existing business, for instance, let's say I want to create my own sporting goods store. I want to make sure that when somebody goes into Google and types in sporting goods store, that Jeff Sporting Goods, let's say that's what I'm going to call it, is the first one that comes up. And that's done, hopefully at least, through SEO. Finally, we discuss mobile website technologies, and we talk about things like a mobile-first type of an idea. In case you weren't aware of it, sometime in mid-2016, mobile devices have taken over completely, in that more than 50% of people who now access the internet do so through a mobile device, be it a phone or a tablet. The focus is to build students' abilities and confidence through hands-on exercises, We're going to go over the two books that we use in just a moment, and we do exercises in both books and real-world projects. My hope is that we will build a website as a class. It'll be a perpetual website. In other words, we'll start it early and keep adding to it as the class goes on. This course will provide the base for a strong future in web development. That's what the goal is. All right, so the first book that we use in here looks like this. Okay, and it's, I don't know why it's looking like that, but it should be a bigger image, but it's not letting me do that, so that's fine. It's called Web Development and Design with HTML5, right there. The author is Terry Felk Morris, and the edition, at least the one we used last year, and I believe it's still the newest edition, is the 8th edition. Okay, you can see it's got 26 reviews, and it's all over the board, but it's a pretty good book. All right. See if I can bring it up this way, and I don't know if I can or not, so, but I'll try. That's what I wanted. Usually you can click on it here and you can get the table of contents. Of course, it's not being very amicable with me right now, but I'll try it this way. We go over the entire book. So Chapter 1 is an introduction to the Internet and the World Wide Web. Chapter 2 is on HTML basics. Chapter 3 is on configuring color and text with CSS. Chapter 4 is on visual elements and graphics. Chapter 5 is on web design. Chapter 6 is on page layout. Chapter 7, more on links, layout, and mobile. Chapter 8 is on tables. Chapter 9 is on forms. Chapter 10 is on web development. Chapter 11 is on web multimedia and interactivity. Chapter 12 is an overview of e-commerce. Chapter 13 is on web promotion. And Chapter 14, as it says, is a brief look at JavaScript and jQuery. Now, you may or may not be able to see this, but if you go out to http://webdevfoundations.net, this is the author's website. All right? And I'm not going to go over anything that's in here other than to tell you that there is additional information in here. This is where I was able to get the instructor materials, but some resources in here are shown right here. And if you want a little bit more, if you want to hear from Terry Felk Morris, the author of the book, I guess it's, I don't know, maybe she doesn't even talk, but it goes over the book and what's all in the book. All right? The only other thing I'd want to say regarding this is another site you might want to get used to going out to is w3schools.com. W3 stands for World Wide Web Consortium. That's www, World Wide Web. And if you go out there and you click the tutorial section, you'll notice that there is a tutorial on HTML, which is an HTML5 tutorial, and that's good because that's what we're going to cover. All right. There is a tutorial on CSS, including CSS3, and there is a tutorial on JavaScript. So it's a great place to get started. All right, that said, the other textbook that we use in here is by Sasha Vodnik and Don Gosselin, and it's called JavaScript, the Web Warriors Series, 6th edition. All right, it looks like this. There are 12 chapters in the book. I have gone through and done presentations on every chapter. Now, that said, we don't go through every single chapter that's in the book. There's just not enough time to do that and do it justice. And again, it looks like I'm not able to. Usually I'm able to come in here. Well, let's try this. There it is. Rant, overview, table of contents. All right. So this is the table of contents for that textbook. Put it down, there you go. So we will go over Chapter 1, Introduction to JavaScript. Chapter 2, Working with Functions, Data Types, and Operators. Chapter 3, Building Arrays and Controlling Flow. Chapter 4, Debugging and Error Handling. Chapter 5, Working with a Document Object Model, or DOM. Chapter 6, Validating and Enhancing and Validating Forms. So we'll go over those 6 chapters. We're not going to go over as a class Chapter 7, Using Object-Oriented JavaScript. We will not go over that. We will go over Chapter 8, Manipulating Data Strings and Arrays. We will not go over Chapters 9, 10, and 11, Managing State, Information and Security, Programming for Touchscreens and Mobile Devices, Updating Web Pages with AJAX. We might touch on concepts that are in here, but hopefully we'll have time to go over Chapter 12, an Introduction to jQuery. All right. Again, that's the hope for the class. Last thing I'll mention here is you may want to go out to youtube.com. And if you go out to youtube.com and you do a search for Jeff Scott, Rankin Technical College, you'll find my different YouTube channels. All right. So if you click the first one that says Jeff Scott, there's many more than 75 videos. But if you click out there and you've got created playlists, the one that you will want under created playlists, and I don't know why these are the only 2 that are showing because they're old. Well, let's put it this way. This is the one that you will want, and I will quickly show you the URL for it. And it's right there. I know that's kind of a mouthful, but hopefully you can see that all right. I will leave that up there for just a moment. So if you go out to that URL, youtube.com playlist !list equal, and I'm not going to read that because I'd probably screw it up. All right. If you come up to that site, it'll bring you to right here. And as you can see, 122 videos. There'll be 123, and this will be the one on top. What I've done in here is I first go over all the PowerPoint in the Terry Felk Morris HTML5 book. So all 14 chapters of PowerPoints. That's about 17 lectures. Then I go over one of her running case examples in the book that's called the Fish Creek Animal Hospital. It's not in every chapter, but it's in about 10 of the 14 chapters. So I go over that from start to finish. Next, I transition or give you a little intro into HTML5, the newest version of HTML, and some HTML fundamentals. Then we do the same thing with CSS. So we transition from HTML, HTML5 to CSS, CSS3 with a series of videos. All right, and then I go in, that's all from the first textbook, and then we go into the second textbook, our JavaScript book, and again, I go over the 12 chapters of PowerPoints, even the ones we're not going to cover as a class. I go over all of them. Over here are the times of the presentations. They range anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes all the way up to an hour long a piece. All right, then using a simple JavaScript miles per gallon program, I hit on a lot of the major concepts in chapters 1 through 6. Remember, we're not going to cover chapter 7 as a class, This program is not good for chapter 8, which is on strings and arrays. So I go over strings and arrays separately as a series of videos. And then finally, I go back and show some more jQuery from chapter 12. Then I go into some jQuery fundamentals with about, looks like, 8 different lectures. Then I go into that Bootstrap content management system by first going over the newest version of Bootstrap, which is still in alpha mode, version 4, and there's a series of lectures on that. Then there is a company that's called Quackit.com, quack like a duck, and they've got a Bootstrap 4 tutorial, so I go through that in about 8 videos. Then they've got examples from those tutorials, and I go through those in 4 videos. Then I start from scratch with virtually an empty website. And from this empty website, I create an actual website. Let's see if we show it here. Of course not. Let's see, this is the last part. So this is the website that I end up creating. Come on, show me what it looks like. Here we go, come on. Show you a piece of it. There's the form that we create from the website. So we start from scratch and we build this. It'll have 3 pages. This is the contact page, but there is a home page and there's an about page. The about page just has some text. The home page has got a couple videos on it. So you can look at that. We will also work on that, create that as a class. Then I come back and I create that as a Bootstrap website. I do that as a series of videos. Finally, I use a new product or a newer product that's called Mobirise.com, which is a Bootstrap, but it allows you to do a lot of drag and drop. And I do that over a series of lectures. And again, the last lecture will be this intro to the course. So that is the 122 lectures that you will have in here. The other thing I should mention to you, especially those of you who are in the St. Louis class, is if you go out to YouTube, where is it? And you go out here, I'm going to bring it up in a different browser, to www.youtube.com/user/Mr. Gudmisted. That's Evan, the teacher. This is Evan's site. That's Evan right there. And he will have, there are at least some videos that are out here that you may be interested in as well. That's it. So I hope you enjoy the class.